Right, talking points. Here we go. There are the 7 up there. Prize money deal, first of all, Richard Hoiles. This is the prize money deal that suggested an extra $5 million into the ARC tracks. It had, I think, until Thursday for them to fight out a deal. It didn't happen. Deal seems, for now at least, dead in the water. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I was waiting for that 11:59 press release that never occurred. It manifests a couple of issues. First of all, you can understand both sides of the argument. Most people would say that we have plenty of racing, and so the addition of extra fixtures waters down the product and eventually turns punters off. However, as regards the finances and the position that we're in, extra races do generate extra revenue for the levy, providing the results are correct through profits rather than turnover, a separate issue. And for the sport, who were looking to go to government to seek assistance with the levy, it's quite nuanced to then explain why you've turned down what was being put up as several £1 million for a few extra races on the all-weather. Now, the question is this the right place to literally draw a line in the sand, well, certainly on the all-weather sand, and fight your corner? Or would we have been better off to allow this through? It was a trial, to monitor whether it improved fields, and to then consider the impact of the fixture list going forward, and then lobby government in the interim, saying this is the sort of thing we are doing, but it is nowhere near enough. And that's the dilemma. It's very difficult to work out what side. As an accountant, I generally think, give me the money, and then I'll sort it out. I do understand those that have that principle. I might feel this was too early to draw the line at this point, but I can sympathise with those that did.
And it seems as though that not every group is singing from the same hymn sheet on it, i.e. the NTF represented by, Rafe Beckett was on Nick Luck Daily talking about how they were against it because of the future of racing, but other trainers have since come out and said, hang on a second, we want the money.
I know, broad church, it's hard to represent all aspects.
There's the bell. Good. Been some disgraceful overrunning recently.
We're under pressure here.
Mr. Luck. Just not good enough. So
my sectional time clock is going.
Yes. So let's move on to Oisin Murphy. He's come out recently in the Sunday segment today in the Racing Post saying, being very honest, he scared himself. He hasn't had a drink since that incident back on the Thursday before the Friday of Newmarket a good few weeks ago. Now, he's saying all the right things, and it seems doing the right things as well.
Yeah, obviously we genuinely hope so. When I was last in, we had Sheikh Farhad up there as one of those, and we were discussing the incident off the back of it, and I suggested at the time that he'd been a little bit too dismissive and a little bit too glib about the issues, given that they appeared to be quite well known. The most important person who needs to be aware of the issues is the individual concerned, and Oisin clearly is aware of the issues that he's facing, and let's hope, like Kieran Schumacher, like Ray Dawson, that it is a specific incident that leads to great improvement, and you almost have to look over the edge in order to retreat from it. And I hope that turns out to be the case for Oisin. It's a personal battle, and it's wrong for us to pontificate about it, but it clearly was beginning to impinge on his professional career, and he realised that.
And the bit of racing news to come out of it is he has suggested at this stage, though it could change in the spring, that he's not likely to chase a 4th consecutive jockey's title because of the pressures it put on him.
Yes, and I think you could see that in the last week. Obviously he took that spill at Salisbury, took a very heavy fall with me at Chelmsford, and he just looked exhausted. And it's interesting when we were talking about the way they used to still be charging around until Doncaster on the last day to Wolverhampton at night, how people's views of what is sustainable as regards riding and acceptable now has changed since we've gone to the one meeting rule.
Yeah, that was the statement he made that you can read today in the Racing Post, and he suggested that next year it may not be him going for a 4th consecutive jockey's title, which would be an incredible achievement. But let's see where he is in the spring. You never know. Sometimes he almost ends up going for it by design, doesn't he, because of the horses he gets on. And anyway, we will see. Gordon Elliot Jockeys. Now, there was a lot of talk about this in the week, Richard. Gordon Elliot demanding, it seems, that Jack Kennedy ride his horse, Delta Work, as opposed to the Gold Cup winner Manila Indo, that Davy Russell, hope he's okay, get well soon, Davy, was not to ride Envoy Allen. Rachel Blackmore took over on both those horses. What did you make of it, Richard?
So I went and did a few numbers, specifically with Jack Kennedy as opposed to Davy Russell. And Jack's only had 5 rides for Henry de Bromhead that I could find this calendar year, 2021. In that time, he's ridden 142 when Gordon Elliott's held the licence, and another 96 for Denise Foster. I think, given that balance of power, irrespective of whether you suit Delta work better or not, which he has won 2 Grade 1s on the horse, then I think Gordon was well within his rights to claim that he should have the use of Jack. Difficult position for Jack, but when the balance of your employment is so clearly in one direction. David Russell, not made of Cheveley Park, but the simple fact is that we know from interviews on this very programme that Cheveley Park, those horses were bought with a specific purpose of giving, the Richardson family some fun late on in life, and they're not going to be ongoing. So I can understand in this instance, my sympathies, given the statistics, are with Gordon saying, hang on a second, I've got an important run in this race, and who knows whether Rachel will be back on Minella Indo anywhere somewhere down the line.
Is what matters really not what we think, but what Jack Kennedy and David Russell think? Because ultimately they're the people that might think, I can understand Jack Kennedy, for example, certainly thinking, I rode a Gold Cup winner on that, but he can't have been expecting to ride Minella Indo, can he, against a horse of Gordon?
It would be nice to ride it, but I think, when you came into the yard, having beaten Delta Work a short head on Minella Indo, you might feel that you maybe not have done your position in the pecking order a great deal of good. Very hard for jockeys to juggle from horse to horse on day to day. Some were very good at it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't fancy doing that, so I think it's understandable that Gordon claimed what he felt was rightfully his.
The Melbourne Cup is this Tuesday, around about 4 a.m. Local time to here. Set to only have one European runner, it seems, because of the ongoing tests that they're having out there. Charlie Fellows has been very vocal about these tests that has put plenty off from travelling and has meant that plenty haven't passed those vet tests out there. Can you understand why Racing Victoria have done it, but can you also understand those that now look at the race and say, it's not what it used to be?
Well, it's no longer an international race to the extent that it was. I think we've got Twilight Payment and Spanish Mission in the field at the moment, and Spanish Mission still with a potential cloud over vets.
Although he did pass the recent test.
He did, yeah, right. So we may end up with 2. Yeah. But the key point is that I think a lot of the comments that were made were about, this is obviously in the name of horse welfare, and I understand that Australia in a very difficult position, but like we were in the Grand National, when your feature race has featured fatalities when it goes to a far wider audience, and it puts the wider aspect of racing in the limelight. So something needed to be done. Do I agree with what was done? No, because it was too specific against one group. And the horse welfare issue of putting horses through what was a very rigorous set of tests was in itself, I know someone who was connected with one of those horses, and it was sedated on several occasions to try and, pass the test. And then when we got there, Ismail Mohammed horse came out, the Spanish Mission's passing the vet. So does that raise questions as to the training centre at Werribee maybe should have been under far greater scrutiny?
And there is the elephant in the room that is now being talked about more and more, that it's nothing to do with the horses that are being taken out there or the European campaigns. It is, I think plenty would argue, or European traders would argue, it is the Werribee training surface. It's not the fact that they train differently. They're not going up a hill, but they're suddenly being trained on a track, because it doesn't happen when they go out to Dubai, for example.
Well, no, and Japan's a really good example, because obviously, the ground's far quicker in Dubai.
Yeah.
So I think the danger is it welfare or is it protectionism? And it depends which country you come from, as to which case you point. But we won up after the cricket yesterday anyway, so...
Yeah, easy. Yeah, I think we should be given 2 for that.
We're losing the semi-final to them, that.
Probably, yeah. I'll leave it for the end anyway.
Yeah.
I'll get that out there. Sales results, Richard. This is, first of all, this is something that David touched on. The horses in training sales recently seemingly have done very well. David Dennis, who was in earlier, suggesting that you wouldn't know there's been a global pandemic or any financial struggles across the country. Much of that is foreign investment coming in from, we're now seeing more Bahraini investment, Saudi investment. Is this a good thing for the sport?
Well, I don't think, again, separating it all out is quite hard, isn't it? I think it's always been puzzling, again, with my old accounting hat on, how you can spend that amount of money, particularly, say, on jumpers, for example, and expect to recoup it. But there's no doubt that the balance of power has shifted in terms of the progression in the Middle East, the buying power of Saudi, Bahrain, effectively tacking themselves onto the Dubai Carnival to make a whole period for horse races, but 85-plus rated horses, and giving them opportunities when we've really got very little in terms of, we've got very good all-weather series, which is very good, but it caters for a smaller group of horses. So economics come into display. You go where the money is, and that's a big talking point in its own right, but we should expect that. Where they'll be trained will be interesting. Are they being targeted at the Saudi Cup, having been trained here, or are they being trained out in Saudi Arabia under domestic trainers? Will we see a major trainer switch over and have a satellite yard in Bahrain or a satellite yard in Saudi before too much longer if they don't turn out to be massively successful?
We've seen it with Simon Crisford in Dubai. Brian Meehan's going to have a satellite yard in France.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we can be horrified about where these horses are going and the amounts that are being paid. We just have to accept that we're not in a good place. We know we're not in a good place prize money. We need to rebuild. We need to build up our own product. Australia, horses being bought to go over there. I mean, you can look at Joseph O'Brien's success with State of Play that won, two ways. The Australians saying, well, there you go, you can pass these tests and, you're absolutely fine. I might say that it shows how bad the rest of them are if you can put a horse through that and he still beats them. And that creates opportunity. And that's where people buy into opportunity. Once the market is saturated, you go somewhere else. Tough time for Britain and Irish racing at the moment, but we shouldn't be too concerned if that's following the prize money.
State of Play doesn't seem right.
No,
he was
it's not
state of rest.
State of Play.
State
I knew as I said, I was looking for you to correct me.
I thought,
I'm thinking, I'm thinking,
Evan Williams in my head,
no, exactly. The horse that runs on in the Welsh National.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, mind you, he might have a chance in the Melbourne Cup.
You never know. Yeah, he's just got to pass the vet. Right, novice handicap. Now, this is novice handicap chases. This is something you raise, so take it away, if you will.
Yeah, OK. Look, this comes out every now and again, and it's the dilemma. If we had Dan on earlier, and Harry Skelton had obviously spoken about, they ran third time lucky in a novice chase. There are very, very few novice chases now because they are now novice handicaps. My problem with horses going straight into handicap company, whether it be a novice or conventional handicaps, Venetia Williams, for example, often starts her horses in conventional handicaps, is it is based on a hurdles mark. And I still have a problem with that. I still have this sort of, you buy a point-to-pointer, has won a couple of races, and you run it 3 novice hurdles over 2 miles, you get a mark, and then you can go novice handicap chasing straight away with a horse that's obviously more adept at chasing, and the handicap can do nothing about it. My solution to the novice chase fields has always been to force horses, not forces in, to really make them, but so you can get a better understanding of their relative abilities over fences, to force them to run in a couple of novice chases first. They can be novice chases with a ceiling in terms of bandings. It happens in Ireland, and I don't think it's any coincidence. I know there are some that are well out the back, and, there's often short-priced favourites, and they dominate. But I just feel you don't get handicapped over hurdles on your bumper form, and yet you're asked to go over a completely different discipline on your hurdles form, and that sticks with me. And what's happened is we've had increasing number of novice handicaps, fewer novices, fewer beginners chases, which intermediate chases, really good one at Carlisle. Let's not automatically base a horse's chasing ability on its hurdles mark without the opportunity to see it at least twice over fences.
But the counter-argument to that is if you have a whole host of beginners or novice chases with a few short-price favourites who are 150-plus chasers, say, you are going to get plenty thinking, well, we don't want to finish too close to that.
Well, maybe, but at the same time, you get 4 runner novice chases at Grade 2 with no runners.
Yes.
So, at least from a betting point of view, there is an each-way perspective. It's not easily solvable, but I still believe in the logic of my argument about not handicapping them on hurdles form rather than just increasing the number of novice handicaps.
Pool betting, this is in relation in the main to the World Pool, the Tote World Pool, which has seen a big cash injection into the Tote because the World Pool seemingly at the big meetings has been very successful. But is there an appetite for pool betting in the UK as far as you're concerned?
Pool betting is the one that's suffered most, really, because the takeover of the Tote has occurred at, it was a rundown product. Let's not argue about that. And obviously, COVID deprived them of crowds. The big problem is obviously liquidity. The only way you're going to bet substantially on the Tote if you're not going to kill your own price, and it's very hard to know what your price will be when a substantial amount of money goes on so late that the dividend is changed. World Pool has shown us the capacity to increase turnover with innovation, greater bets, and the appetite on the world stage. But there is only a certain number of those races. You can't roll that out to Wednesday at Plumpton and expect people in Hong Kong, A, to be allowed to bet at night, because they restrict the number of outside events they're able to bet on, or somewhere like Japan to have any interest. But I do feel that pool betting, given that everything we've been speaking about, and we will be speaking about with problem gambling, etc., I think the pool betting aspect for racing solution, many feel the Tote boat sailed when it was, betting shops were legalised, and that's absolutely right. I was always told as an accountant, if you want to be a success, go to the most neglected part of a business. And to me, the most neglected part of the betting landscape, partly through no fault of their own, certainly through fault of their own going back, is tote betting. How you rejuvenate it is difficult, but if you can increase pool sizes on a daily basis, be innovative, and reduce the takeouts initially to generate greater turnover, it is no doubt neglected. You can't just have the top and nothing in the middle. You've got whirlpool up there, day-to-day down there. You've got to fill that gap in. But I still feel it has massive potential. We can see how a very smart management team take it forward.
Excellent sectionals. Great stuff, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. That is it for this week's Talking Points.